Hi guys and girls, welcome to SeaWorld Earth, and today I'm going to be taking you on a journey to look at the equipment that I use in order to shoot both ocean and surf photography from a terrestrial and an in-water perspective. So keep it peeled, we're just about to get into that, but I did just want to mention one thing. Can you notice anything different about the channel? I mean, just have a quick look around. It'll take you like 3 or 4 seconds. Have you got it yet? Take a look down here. Exactly. I've just opened up the option for membership of the channel in the hope that there may be some of you out there that would be willing to show a level of support to the channel that will allow me to focus more of my time on the creation of content to keep you guys and girls entertained within the adventures that I get up to in imaging, both in Okinawa and further afield when I travel around the islands that are within easy travel distance of Okinawa main island. So if you want to check that out, look at each of the membership options and you'll see that there are different perks in relation to which option you wish you could support me with if you so wish, and I'll just leave all of that to you. I'm not going to harp on about it, and it's not something that I'm going to just keep pushing all the time. So it's there, please check it out, and yeah, it's awesome. Let's get into it. Let's take a look and see at the equipment that I use in order to shoot surf photography. Okay, now the first thing we're going to think about, obviously, when we're shooting photography is the cameras. Yeah, for the most part, I didn't have one ready. Hold on. For the most part, if I'm shooting from a terrestrial standpoint, I'm going to be using my trusted Canon EOS 5 DSR, 50.6 megapixels of goodness, and that obviously is enough then to be able to provide images with a huge amount of detail and great resolution. If I want to turn them into posters, or if I'm shooting for a sponsor, then that will allow them to make posters and do whatever. Normally I'm shooting, I generally tend to say wide angle-ish, so I'm normally working between 24 to 70 millimeters, but you know, I can go further. But all of that, the lens that you decide to use for the shoot, is all going to depend on what is called a port that you use on your big old protective housing that you're going to take into the ocean with you. Now at this point I must say that any brand names or any stuff like that I mentioned throughout this video are not in any way, shape or form sponsored promotions. No one's paid me to do anything with regards to this video, so I can say exactly what I want with regards to any of the equipment that I'm going to show you, good, bad or indifferent. I'm not sponsored in any way, shape or form. So in order to take my camera into the water, I use a housing from a company called Aquatech. This is the reflex range of housing. It's what they call the Pro unit, because it's got all of the controls, the button controls on the back, so that I can access all of the features on the back of my camera. And they do have a starter back plate that doesn't have any of that, any of these buttons, so you just have to basically set your camera up how you want it, either in like aperture priority or shutter priority mode, or fully automatic. But that's going to be problematic, especially when you've got fast things moving like surfers and ocean waves and whatever getting in the way, and thus you're going to have the camera hunting for something to lock onto. For people that are using not a pro plate, I would always suggest either aperture priority or shutter priority, depending on what it is that you're actually shooting. Because it is a water housing, it doesn't necessarily have to mean that I'm shooting surfing. I can do fine art split water shots if I want to, without a surfer or a wave in sight. I can go into streams in the jungles if I want to showcase the habitat of a species, for example. So it just enables me in order to be able to take my cameras into the water. Now what you'll notice on the front here is that there is this big old bulbous front element, and that is called a dome port. this big bulb here, and what that does is it pushes the water level away from the lens in order to be able to incorporate that into the imaging. Now they do come in different sizes. This one is an 8mm dome, and while you can accomplish like split water shots, that is an aesthetic where you have above and below the waterline in the shot, something like this here. Now, while you can accomplish things like that with this dome, what you generally need if you're going to be doing like fine art split water shots, you really need to have a dome that is a little bit bigger than this, and one that pushes the waterline further away, and so that that waterline approaches the minimum focal length of the lens that you're using. Now predominantly when you're shooting dome ports like this, you're going to be using a wider angle lens, because that dome port then allows you to get that wider field of view from your camera lens, to incorporate much greater expansive scenes, as it were, from the water's surface perspective, whether that's a surfer coming over you, or if you're underwater and you've got a wave breaking and a surfer going through that, you would accomplish that by having a dome port on your lens. If I wanted to go really crazy and shoot super fine art water shots, what I would use is a much bigger dome, which I do have here. This, believe it or not, is another dome port. This is what is called the PD16. I did actually make a video about it, about the unboxing of it, which you can check out up here, and just look at that puppy. Okay, this is a 16-inch dome, so if I hold that up in relation to this guy here, you can see the difference between the two. And this one, if you look at the profile on that, okay, you can see just how much further that is going to push the waterline away from the lens that I've got on the camera, and that in turn then is going to allow me to shoot much more appealing kind of like split water shots. Now, a word of wisdom, obviously these things need to be taken great care of. You don't want to ding them. They are Perspex, so they're very, very easily dinged. But the good thing about that is Perspex is very forgiving when it comes to, if you do have a ding on it, once it's in the water it kind of fills up the crack and off you go. I do actually have a little ding on it that I made a bit of a boo-boo on my last outing, but it's normally in the area in the sky, so I don't really see it, and if I did, it's just a very quick fix with the clone tool in Photoshop. So yeah, that is the kind of dome that you would use in order to accomplish awesome split water shots. I haven't really gotten into that yet, and that's going to be one of the great adventures that I'm going to take you guys on this year, because this is relatively new gear. I have actually been in the water a few times with it, but it's winter here in Okinawa. In fact, it's hammering down with rain today, which is why I'm sat here in the studio bringing you this. But yeah, hopefully when the weather starts to pick up and I get some ideas, I've got some ideas that I want to do for shooting, and they're going to involve models and surfboards and all the other stuff, so hopefully we'll have some of that content coming for you as soon as the water starts warming up here in Okinawa, which should be around about another month or two, and then hopefully we'll get more into the ocean imaging, which I'm looking forward to greatly. Let me just get this cover back on here to protect it all. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And this again is from the company called Aquatech, same people that make the surf housing that I used, or the water housing that I use. Okay, now if, let's say for example, I wanted to shoot something like the lens that I've got on this guy at the moment, which is an 85mm f1.8, the dome port It's not really the ideal thing because that is more geared towards using wide angle lenses, and I've had great success with this dome port and with the other big dome port there, the PD16. I've had a great amount of success of that when using the Laowa 12mm f2.8 zero distortion, which generally tends to be my go-to super wide lens. Love it to pieces. But if I'm going to be shooting in the water with a longer focal length lens, a 50, 85 or even a 105, then I would use a flat port like this, and this dome port here just screws off, screw this one into place, and then I have the flat element in the front for that narrower field of view. So that's what I would use if I'm using a longer focal length with the surf housing. Now, quite simply, everything all works out. I've actually made a video about this housing, etc., and this new gear, so if you want to check that out, it's just up here. But it connects everything inside to my camera, and then from there I've got a trigger up here, which will trigger the camera, either one here, or I've got another one underneath here as well. So if I wanted to take a shot vertical, I can do so with that button there, or just regular, it's just in here. Okay, it's a bit hard to see that one, but it's just in there. Okay, and you can get eventually flash units to go on it and build it all up so that you can do nice in-water stuff as well. Okay, now if I'm going to be swimming in the water and I want to make a video, quite simply I'll just take an action camera with me. This is the GoPro Hero 8 Black. I use one of these, very simple. I've got a little handle that I'll put on it, and it's all well and good. At the moment I'm not really into the idea of taking a big bulky camera in there. I did actually used to shoot surf video when I lived and worked in Bali before we lived in Okinawa. I lived in Bali for 6 years, and part of my thing there, I guess, was I would, although not professionally, I would go into the water and enjoy swimming with in the waves. So now it's just a fact of me getting back into that kind of shooting aesthetic here in Okinawa. The waves here are not as impactful as they are in Bali, so it gives me hopefully a bit more of a positive vibe, given that when I was in Bali I had a couple of very close calls, near-death experiences if you like, which I'm hoping I don't replicate while I'm here in Okinawa. So yeah, if I'm shooting video, very simply I'll just use a GoPro Hero 8, and for the most part I'll shoot at 2K, 2.7K 120, and then just sort everything out in post-production after that. There's a couple of videos that you've seen on the channel that relate to just swimming sessions that I've had with the GoPro. Okay, terrestrial shooting. Now a lot of the waves that I get here, or that we get here in Okinawa, are offshore, some more than others, but for the most part within easy range of this guy. This is my just a little variable zoom focal length camera that I use for surfer shots, and this is the Tamron 150 to 600 f5.6 to 6.3 zoom lens. As you can see, it just extends out to zoom in order to capture what it is that I want to get. So what I generally tend to do, I don't ever use it handheld because it's just too problematic. I think trying to hold something when you're at, especially at 600mm, I do, although it does have the vibration reduction stability option on the camera. Okay, you can either have it on or off. Off when it's on a tripod, on at all other times. And yeah, that's a EF fitting lens, so that just goes straight onto my Canon camera, my EOS 5DSR, and it, with the shoe that I have on it as well, it's one that has two anchor screws, just for extra stability when it is on the tripod. Now, tripod wise, whenever I'm shooting surf photography, I prefer to use a video tripod. Okay, that's this bad boy here. This is just a relatively cheap brand, Malibu I think it's called, but it does the job. It does what I need it to do, and more so because with video or with surf photography. I've got the video head on it because I might prefer those actually. They're a lot more rigid, they're a lot more stable, and they offer a really nice option with regards to when you want to shoot those like panorama, linear long exposure shots like these. And those shots are accomplished quite simply by having the head of the tripod absolutely level, and then locking the up and down tilt so it's not going to move up and down, and then just releasing the tension or the resistance on the pan so that that can then pan with your camera in place, and you can get a really nice defined horizon line, and then all of the gorgeousness that happens with long exposures and the textures of the ocean, whether it's at sunrise, sunset, etc, etc. But also if you want to shoot like a long exposure with in order to get motion blur of surfers, which I've done quite a lot of late, images like these. Just by using something of like a 1/10 of a second or a 1/15 of a second or a 1/20th of a second, it is quite slow, obviously way too slow in order to get a good shot with handheld. And again, if you have you really need to luck out with the surfer that isn't going up and down vertically on the face of the wave. If he's traveling in a straight line across a wave, then you're obviously going to get the best results by that way, because you're only panning with the surfer anyway, and all you're trying to do is just match his speed or her speed with the lens at 1/20th or 1/15th in order to get shots like that. And also, in order to do that in the middle of the day, you are going to be needing to place some kind of ND filtering on your camera lens. I was in the bright sun of Okinawa. I'm using up to ND64. It can be quite hard in order for you to see and pick up the surfer, but eventually you get the shot, and everyone's a happy teddy bear. So yeah, that's all well and good. I'm happy with that, with shooting terrestrial stuff, and obviously if I could afford a beautiful prime 600 f4 Canon, then I would. Maybe the membership will allow me to get that after a period of time. Now that's more from a terrestrial point of view. If I decide to go into the water, then obviously there are certain equipment that I need in order to accomplish that, and we're going to look at that right now. Okay, now even though I live in the beautiful island of Okinawa, which is subtropical, in the winter, because you get so used to being in the water in the summer, at the winter when the ocean, when everything drops, temperature wise, you do need to start considering the use of a wetsuit, and I use this guy here. It is a wetsuit from, I believe, Rip Curl. It's called the E-Bomb. Yeah, Rip Curl, and it's basically a 3.2mm suit. That means it's 3mm on the main core, 2mm on the arms and legs, and it's just enough to keep the chill off and enable me to it's super stretchy. It's amazingly stretchy. Boing boing boing. It's like chewing gum. It allows me to stay in the water, bearing in mind that the water is about, I'd say, 21 degrees Celsius. I'll put the Fahrenheit equivalent of that up on the screen and let you be the judge of whether or not I'm wimping out or not. Just put that over there. And also, in conjunction with that, I also wear a couple of little, where are we? There. Bear with me. Yeah, a couple of little neoprene booties. socks, as it were, because we do most of the brakes here in Okinawa are rock or reef based, and you can see the boot or the heels in these things are starting to go. Now obviously I prefer to protect my feet as opposed I prefer to wear these as opposed to let my feet take the brunt of that, because you can every now and again get a bit of a nasty cut if you're not careful. So yeah, invaluable. I actually need a new pair of these pretty soon, so I'll be going out shopping maybe later today. I've just noticed they're that bad, so I might have to go and get some more. You really do have to be careful because everything is surfing on reefs and rock in Okinawa. I don't believe there are any decent sand brakes or beach brakes or brakes with sand here, so yeah, that's very much a concern for most people, which leads me very nicely onto my next piece of gear, my melon protector. Okay, this is my helmet from Gath. Okay, it seems to be one of the main staple pieces of gear for most surf photographers. You can see already there's a few dings and scratches on the helmet, scrapes and whatever from when I've just been tumbled a little bit in the waves. And the waves here are not really that massive, but they are solid, and there are, even on small slabby kind of waves, even that may only be less than a metre tall, they pack one heck of a punch. So every now and again you get rolled around a bit, and it's just nice to have something protecting the old melon. Rather this takes the hit than the Swede. So yeah, and obviously a little bit of advertising on the back just so people know who it is who's taking their photographs. Oh, cool. I generally tend not to go out in waves that are too crazy. I mean, I'm 58 years old now. I'm getting up there in years, but I like to go out and swim in the waves, and I'll go out and swim maybe 2 or 3 hours, no problem. And so with that, obviously I need to be protected, hence I've got the wetsuit that offers a certain amount of protection. I've got the head protector, and if the waves are up to about head height, maybe just a little bit more than head height, which is about the limit that I'm going to put myself out there in, then I will use this. This is what is called an impact vest. Okay, some big surfers, big wave surfers, also use a similar kind of product like this, and all it does, obviously, it protects me. There's certain areas on it, on the chest, on the sides, and also on the back and shoulders that have extra good padding in that will protect from, or at least lessen, any impacts that I may be subject to if a wave decides to pick me up and slam me on the reef. So yep, that's what I use. This one is made by a company called FK Surf, I believe. Yep, FK Surf. Not to be confused with a life preserver. It's not that at all. It's only supposed to be used as a product to enhance your safety in larger swell. So bear that in mind. Now, to get around, I do swim around, but obviously I need to have some kind of propulsion. So I do have some little bodyboard fins that I'll use here. These are made by a company called Viper. I've had these for a number of years. You can see the bottoms are all a bit scratched up, and the rubber is actually in some places cracking just a little bit, so it may be something else that's on the, although there's nothing critical yet, but obviously within about a year or so I'm probably going to have to start looking at replacing these guys, but they've suited me well. They work well and very comfortable, and I like them, so if I did replace them I'll probably try and get something very similar. And then, yeah, rash vests and whatever. Now, with the, some people ask me if I use a mask. I do have a mask if I need it, but with this particular helmet, with the Gath, I can't put a mask on and the helmet, so it's a choice of the two. Depends on the size of the waves, what I'm doing. But in order just to carry something with me if I need to, I've got a little shoulder strap that I've made up from a camera shoulder strap. I've turned it into a belt, put a little carabiner on the back, and I'll just put that quite simply around my waist so that I've got that mask there. I just have to unclip it, put it on, unclip my mask if the waves die off, and I've got somewhere nice to keep that there. So just something to have around with me while I'm in the water. And yeah, that's for now. I would say that that's pretty much it. Those are the kinds of, that's the kind of gear. There's no kind of like tutorials on how I use the gear. All I wanted to do was to show you what it is that I do, what it is I use, and just give you an idea of the kind of gear that you may need if you're looking yourselves to get more into ocean photography from a terrestrial or an in-water standpoint. So that's it from me for today. I'm going to love you and leave you. Get my office back to some semblance of tidy. But please do stay safe, stay happy, stay sane. Get out there and start taking some pictures. If there's something that you want to do, question-wise, reach out to me on the community tab of the channel. Please also respond to any of the videos that are in my archives, as it were, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe and hit the little notifications bell so that you'll be updated as and when new content is available from me here on Seawild Earth. And just one last reminder to please, if the mood so takes you, just think about maybe supporting the channel by taking out a membership. It is, like I said, a new feature, a new option that I've just added, so hopefully I'll be able to welcome you personally. There is a little personal video that you'll get to see that nobody else can see. It's a members only video welcoming you to the channel should you decide to support me in that way. So until the next time, guys and girls, I'm going to love you and leave you. Take care. All the best. Bye bye.